Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
Joshua Shrum. He is a very talented steward, very knowledgeable.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. This is one of those podcasts where I listen to every episode. I love what he's putting out there.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. Josh Shrum.
Parcels of Knowledge. Does a fantastic job with that podcast.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball. He is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God. We need Article 8 scholars right now.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.
Good morning, and welcome back to Parcels of Knowledge, that podcast dedicated to delivering knowledge to the city letter carrier with your host, the Roseville Wrecking Ball. Today, it is Wrecking Crew Wednesdays, and you know what that means. It means we're going to be taking care of the Patreon people. We're going to be thanking them for their contributions for making this show possible. Every Wednesday, we've got Wrecking Crew Wednesdays. We want to give a special thanks to Tom Perry, Rick Steiner, somebody abbreviated ER, and now we have a new member, Philip DiGiulio. You guys are the best. You guys are what makes this podcast work, because you guys are helping me with the costs associated with this podcast. I really do appreciate that. Sooner or later, if this continues, maybe we can get a website. And that brings me to my reminder that everyone can participate. If you'd like to participate and donate to the Patreon, you can donate anywhere between $1 and $50. And you could donate per month, and that way we could get a website going, we can maintain our equipment, and we can get a presence at the next convention. It's going to be really exciting. Either way, I'm going to be there. But the more I raise, the more I'm going to be able to do something fun and make sure that my presence is to the best of my ability. And maybe we could record some podcasts down there over in LA. But on to the next topic. We will have Gross Cough a little bit earlier. I've gotten a lot of questions. If you want to submit questions, you only have until January 24th now. Sorry, but this is for some new exciting news. We're going to be having a special segment throughout the election year. And that means we're going to be having a different candidate on each Saturday, with the exception of January 31st, which is my 19-year anniversary with my wife. Bless my wife. She puts up with this all the time. I'm actually in our room right now, and she's in the living room listening to me say this. But yeah, I couldn't do it without my family, without my foundation, which is you guys. And this next segment will be called Saturdays with Shrum. We have it booked all the way through May 2nd. Might as well call it CLC Saturdays, because I've got the CLC slated. I will release a calendar on Parcels of Knowledge Facebook. If you're a candidate that wants to run, please get with me to book investigative interview. And it's going to take the same format. I'm hoping, because we're only going to give a week to give questions, I'm hoping there'll be the same amount of participation, but we'll see. We'll see. Maybe there'll be more. This will likely be a permanent fixture of the podcast for the remainder of the election year, but for now, I am going to announce who we're having on. And forgive me if I get some of these names wrong. Gross Cough is coming on the 24th. Kamitra Lewis will be on the 7th. Anita's going to be on the 14th of February. Walt's going to be back on the 21st of February. Dana's going to be on the 28th of February. Bill Kriebel, March 7th. Bolanger, March 14th. We got Orlando, March 21st. Comine's coming on March 28th. April 4th is Doucet. And April 11th is Kosher. April 18th is Bibs, and April 25th is Cruise. I'm trying to schedule May 2nd, so that one's going to be a surprise as of yet. But if you're a candidate, would like to run, get on with Shrum, Saturdays with Shrum. That way we can get you slated for an interview, and we can be as transparent to every voter. Every voter will know who they're going to be voting for. And that leads me to my next and final topic, which is the main topic of this podcast. Sorry the intro was so long, but I think it's important we talk about those things. Now, this next part is going to be talking about an action that I'd like to be calling. Historically, carriers have always proven to be collectively militant people. You know, back in the day, we used to contact our Congress people individually. They used to call it collective begging, usually directed by the NALC, which at the time was only an association. And it was to fight for labor transparency of our working conditions and the need for increases for our pay, back when we were paid by the government. This persisted even to the 1970 strike, in which we collectively decided to put it on the line. Further down the line, we've done plenty of actions to influence political issues and to get the public on our side about issues. So this is not unusual what I'm going to call for. This insistence to be involved persists today, and I'm calling for an action from all letter carriers. Right now, our standards are going down the drain. Management is prioritizing bonuses over our communities. And where we once stood as pillars of the community, customers are now questioning the need for our existence. This is a major issue, of which the National hasn't really taken up because they're too afraid of the complications of what it may mean. Management's intentionally delaying mail simply on the basis that they don't want to pay premiums, like in my area where they make us stop by penalty time, or hire enough staff. In other areas where they try and get the mail delivered, but they just simply don't have enough people. That's on them. People will tell you not to do this because it might affect our contract. And I thought about that, but I have decided to move forward anyway. For this reason, that's why I made sure you guys know ahead of time. You're probably going to be trying to be dissuaded by the establishment, or even some non-establishment figures might think that this is important to potentially wait on for the timing. But I suggest you do this as soon as possible, because if not now, then when, you know? I just decided to move forward anyway because it's always going to be a bad time. Volumes are so low. They're always going to be low. And that's just something that they always throw out. And maybe it's true. But at the same time, whatever we get as a result of this action, it's just doing the right thing. It's a good concern, but I believe in doing what's right no matter the outcome. So the action I'm calling for is that I need each and every one of you to email or send a letter to your congresspeople asking for a congressional inquiry on the service standards of the Postal Service. Just one person is not going to make much of a difference. But if every letter carrier mails their representative a request for congressional inquiry, I think it would make a splash. This is going to need the participation of a lot of letter carriers. And I'm counting on you, especially if you're an officer or a leader in your area. So I made a template and a game plan to make it only minutes of your time. You can take action by visiting this particular Congress website that I am going to post in the description. There, you can type in your zip code or address and find your representatives in both the Senate and the House of Representatives. There you can click on those names and find out their email addresses and office addresses. I've created a template, of course. You can copy and paste this template, whether it is by letter or by email, and replace all the personal details with your own details and their names. There are spaces with brackets. Please don't leave the bracketed parts in there. It says representative's name. It says your name, your information. You got to replace those. It's going to look really dumb if we don't. I'm going to put a link in the description for Google Docs share for this template. Now, you are encouraged to add one sentence or two to make it more personal to your situation. But remember to keep it vague and do not use it to criticize certain people, especially the NALC. The NALC is a friend to some of these Congress people, so we don't want to come across as being in conflict with them, although we know our national is not going to support undelivered mail grievances. Let's not articulate our differences with local or national leadership and instead focus on the goal we are hoping to achieve. So I'm going to read the letter now in case you want to hear what it says or whatever. Let's see. I'm going to pull it up. So you can alter this letter. I wouldn't suggest you alter it too much because I don't want, I don't want the message to go over their head. It says, I am writing to you today as one of your constituents. And I skipped the parts that are like address and title. So I am writing to you today as one of your constituents and as a dedicated city letter carrier serving our community. I am deeply concerned by the rapid degradation of service standards within the United States Postal Service. Failures that I believe constitute a violation of our statutory mandate. Under 39 U.S.C. 101, the Postal Service is legally obligated to provide prompt, reliable, and efficient services to patrons in all areas, and to provide a maximum degree of effective and regular postal services to rural areas, communities, and small towns where postal services are not self-sustaining. Currently, this universal service obligation is being systematically ignored. In our district and across the nation, management is frequently making the intentional choice to leave entire routes or portions of routes undelivered. This is not due to lack of mail or lack of ability, but rather a refusal to authorize particular overtime premiums in non-profitable areas, or a failure to maintain adequate staffing levels in other areas. This has included all classes of mail, first through third, and in some cases, even political mail. Furthermore, the fiscal and operational mismanagement is staggering. Contractual noncompliance in the last 3 years alone, 22 to 24, the USPS has paid out approximately $1 billion in grievance settlements, money spent simply because management refuses to adhere to established labor agreements. They have every choice to maintain the agreements that they have entered into, but take the intentional choice not to. Declining standards. The service standards that once set the USPS apart as America's delivery service are falling apart. The current leadership appears to abandon the core value of customer service in favor of short-term cost-cutting measures that ultimately harm the public. As my representative, I urge you to open a formal congressional inquiry into these delivery delays and the intentional bypassing of service standards. The public deserves to know why their mail is sitting in post offices while management prioritizes metrics over their legal obligation to deliver. I am available to speak with you or your staff to provide specific examples and further information regarding the conditions on the ground in our local installation. Please contact me at your earliest convenience. Sincerely. And then it says to put your signature, your printed name, home address, phone number, email address. Don't forget, we're going to have to be mindful of these documents because some of them are going to be deciding to do email. Some decide to write a letter. So, of course, you might not put your signature on an email, depending on your system. Or you might just put your printed name. So, make sure you change the bracketed areas as appropriate. And if you don't want to share your contact information, that's fine too. Send the letter anyway. Take out the last paragraph in the place to put your information. But I suggest you do put your information, especially if you're a steward who can prove some issues. If you're a steward, maybe you should encourage them to call you about particular issues. Like I said, you could add one sentence or two, make it more personal to your situation. But once again, remember, do not use it to criticize certain people, especially the NALC, because some of these people helped get elected by the NALC. So if you make it sound like you got a gripe against the NALC for not supporting you in this issue, then you're going to make it so that they close you out, because they're going to say, well, the NALC is a friend of mine. And who knows what the way they'll take it. Some Congress people will not take this seriously. Some Congress people will try and use it against us, I bet. But I think the vast majority of them will be worried about the fact that their constituents' mail delivery is at risk here. And hopefully we can get them to open up a congressional inquiry and get some stuff done. Remember, you are just a member and a constituent, not an official representative of the NALC, and that you are just supporting a carrier-initiated action. That's what this is. It's not an action by the NALC, not unless they adopt it, but I highly doubt they would. We also have to keep this within carriers. Do not ask customers to do this sort of thing or talk negatively to customers about the Postal Service. We don't want any unnecessary discipline to be issued, and that could be issued, and maybe it could be even warranted depending on the situation because of the way that the handbooks and manuals are written. So once again, do not ask customers to send these letters. Do not ask customers to send any letters. We're doing this as a carrier initiative. While email is fast, a physical letter mailed to the district office often carries more weight and must be physically processed by staff. I would advise you to call the congressperson's local office 3 days after mailing to ask for the legislative assistant who handles postal or federal label issues, and ask how your letter was received and whether or not they are going to choose to appropriate any type of action in terms of a congressional inquiry. You can find those phone numbers on the same website you found your Congress people. Please, I urge you guys, take this action seriously. Let's make it something big, and let's get something done. Something that the NALC is failing to do themselves. Let's achieve it as carriers, because we have that ability. We know we can do it. And, I believe in our ability to get things done. So please, even reach across the aisle. Try and see if you can get your friends and other crafts to help us out as well. But other than that, that's all I had to say today. I appreciate your time listening to me, and I appreciate you ahead of time if you would like to do this action. Also, don't forget, if you'd like to contribute to the Patreon, I'm going to have that link in the description. And as always, hopefully you learned something valuable today. Have a good day out there.
If these guys are getting educated, we will be in big trouble.
Management's been weighing you down like a bag of wet catalogs, but you don't gotta take it. You strap on the elbow of education, dig it?
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Roseville Wrecking Ball. The Roseville Wrecking Ball.
The Roseville Wrecking Ball is an Article 8 scholar, and thank God, we need Article 8 scholars right now. The grievous genius, the Roseville Wrecking Ball, doing amazing work.
Tune into the Parcels of Knowledge podcast while you're on the route. That's the mailman's playbook, brother.